Hello and welcome to the Beechgrove garden. Not at Beechgrove, of course, but here in our own gardens all across the country.
Although we're not at Beechgrove, we're still going to inspire you to garden in whatever space you have.
So take some gardening leave, prune out the virus and join us in our gardens for a few moments of glorious gardening.
Welcome to my back garden in Joppa, where today I'm hankering after hostas.
Hello from my flat in Edinburgh, where this week I'm harking back to the 70s, but making a terrarium with a modern twist.
Hello and welcome to our family garden here in Gloucestershire, where today I'm dealing with a rather severe case of box blight.
Oh dear, Chris, that does look a little bit sick. Now, later on in the programme, we're all going to get together and answer some more of your gardening questions with a virtual Q&A. But meanwhile, Kirsty, I really don't remember the 70s, but I'm told all the rage was cheese plants and terrariums.
I'm saying nothing, Carol, but it is funny how trends change and come back into fashion. Now, terrariums are really having their moment, and today I'm going to show you how to make one at home. A terrarium is a glass vessel with a sealed top. It's almost a little mini ecosystem that you're creating. Now, firstly, what you'll need is some potting compost mixed with perlite, some charcoal, some decorative pebbles, some clay pebbles, some moss, and then you want your terrarium plants. So these are plants that can cope with high humidity. And then you'll need a range of tools to make your terrarium. Now, let's get started. So we'll start with it open like that, and then we'll take some clay pebbles like this, and these are added to your terrarium for drainage. Now, if you don't have clay pebbles, you could always use gravel. It just stops the roots all getting too saturated in water at the bottom of the terrarium. Then we're going to add some charcoal. It keeps it fresh in here, stops any bacterial build-up, and stops it sort of going stagnant. So we'll just put some of that into the second layer. And then we're going to add some of the multi-purpose compost. It's quite an open mixture. We don't want the plants to get too saturated. Because it's a small terrarium, I'm only going to put one plant in, and this is a Photonia, the nerve plant, because it has this beautiful nice veining on its leaf. You wouldn't want to put in something like cacti or succulents in a sealed terrarium like this, as they would not like the humidity and the moisture. So we're going to take our plant, and it's got a nice root ball like this, and it's quite healthy. So we're going to use a chopstick and gently create a little hole, and then I'm going to gently lower it, quite tricky, into the terrarium like that. And then we use these tools to just tamper and firm down the compost around the plant and check that it is nice and happy. So this is nice damp moss. Just give it an extra spray, and you just tear some moss off, and you can just lower that into the terrarium as well. Don't need too much because this is just a small terrarium. I'm going to add some decorative pebbles and stones. You can use grit. Some people put little toys in there. So whatever you fancy to decorate the inside of your terrarium. So just need to be quite careful with these going in. Just tip things at the front of the terrarium like that. There you go. Doesn't that look cool? Now it comes to the care of terrariums, and they're really easy to look after. So put them in a bright spot in your own home. Keep them away from really strong direct sunlight because you want lots of nice humidity to be kept in the vessel. Firstly, because I've just planted it, just gently pour a little bit of water on the top there, and that will allow it to settle in. But then after that, and we've put in the initial bit of water, you probably every couple of weeks you might need to come along and spray into your terrarium like that and make sure your plant's nice and healthy. So there you go, a 1970s inspired terrarium with a contemporary twist. Now, I'm sure you don't remember the 70s either, George.
Ah, Kirsty, the 70s. What was I like? All flares and moustaches, and of course, much more hair. I've come to the north side of the house. Now, because it's in the shade, the hostas in this concrete trough are a bit slower and later to develop and grow. I'm near the road here, so there might be a little bit of traffic noise, and you'll just need to excuse that. So the first job really is to take out the stones. Now I want to keep these because this fella here, if you look at this one, it's got a lovely coating of moss on it. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that just fabulous? And I'm going to keep that. That's a lovely piece of sandstone, and I'll keep that to the side. Just down there. This is the variety TikTok, which is one of the small-leaved and supposedly slug-resistant varieties. But I have to tell you, you still have to be vigilant because the slugs will still have a go at. Now, here we are. What's that? I just got to look for the drainage holes. There's one there. A little handful of gravel. The top of those. This is my little trolley that I have. I'll show you that in a minute. Here we are, just a mixture of soil, compost and leaf mould. This is holy mouse ears. There's my trowel. There we are. I'll put him in here. Here we are. Oh, I like this one. This is the one with all the moss on it. Look at that. Hey. Oh, a joy. Last of the stones going in. You know, a garden is full of reminiscences, and these stones were all collected from various beaches up in the northwest of Scotland. Hosta heaven. We'll get a good water and we'll keep an eye on it. Make sure the slugs are kept at bay. Now hostas are native to China, Japan and Korea, and a wee hosta fact for you here, they are loved by slugs, but also the young leaves of hostas can be used in a salad. Now I promised I would show you my little trolley. Here it is, made out of a cupboard and some nails and some bogey wheels. Look at that. And what you do with the bogey wheels is, that, or what you do with the cupboard is, that you knock the nails right through to the other side and then you kinch them over like that, bend them over. This is an Anderson trademark, that is. Every piece of work my father did, it was a bent nail. But there you are, bogey wheels, bits of wood, off they go. No bother, use heavy plants on that as well.
Welcome to our garden, almost on the roof of the Cotswolds. We're at around about 1,000 feet, something like that. And this is a peculiar little garden, a sort of courtyard space that's framed on two sides by old Cotswold barn buildings. The soil in here, well, it's pretty poor to be honest. It was originally the farm yard, so we only have about 15 centimetres of really sticky, horrible clay on top of limestone rubble. And that means that the collection of plants is really quite challenged. Plants like the Matusia, for instance, a wonderful shuttlecock fronds coming up. Euphorbia dixter behind me, and then Asa Bloodgood as a backdrop. And then this rather lovely Magnolia Susan, which is just about past its prime, but is a super magnolia to have for a heavy clay soil. Now, all of that's great, and it's been doing really rather well, but the formality in this garden, because it leads through into the next section, is created not just by the paving stones, but also by the box hedging. This is about 20 years old, and has, up until the last couple of seasons, been free of blight, but it changed last winter. There are, in fact, two fungi which are lumped together that are called box blight. A fungi disrupts the water transport mechanism of the plant, causing dieback not just of the leaf, as you can see on these stems behind me here, but of the entire stem as well. Unfortunately, there is no half measures in treating a box plant like this. So what you have to do is just to hit the plant really hard and prune out anything which is dead. Now, you could just go in with a pair of shears and really start to kind of hack away, or you could use your secateurs and just get in and start cleaning it all out. It's worth just checking that you are going back into green tissue. You can see that there are green shoots in here, so there's foliage, some still evident, but also the stems that I'm cutting through are green, and therefore there's the potential that life may rejuvenate from them. So even though there's no leaf on the stem, there is at least life in the stem. Now, it is worth pointing out that because of the really voracious nature with which this fungal complaint is able to infect plants, if you're using tools, whether it's secateurs or loppers or shears, whatever it is you're using, sterilize them first, disinfect them, and then disinfect them afterwards. And the entire run has to be done on both sides of the path. So you could do it with hand tools, or you could use big boys' toys. It's entirely up to you.
Getting a bit addicted now. Shorter. I think the whole point is not to tickle about with it, isn't it?
There's much tickling going on. After you've done the initial clearance of all the cuttings, the next step is to get in at the base. What you're trying to do is to, first of all, get rid of any potential source of infection, but also clear the base of the plant so that you can go on to the next step, which is all about nurturing. It's about trying to put some energy and some life back into the plant. The next step is to use a granular fertilizer, and this is applied to really tease the roots into action. So this is a product which is slow release, so it's designed to be released over a full 12-month period. Once you've sprinkled it on, you then have to irrigate to make sure that it's released, because all the nutrients, of course, are water soluble, so they need to get down to those plant roots. And in fact, for the full period of recovery of the buxus, you'd have to keep the buxus well watered. This is where the good news starts. And in fact, these tablets are, as far as these box plants are concerned, the good news. These are proprietary tablets. They're not chemicals, so it is a nutritional basis. It's nitrogen, very high-powered soluble nitrogen. Then it's got sulfur, which is a natural fungicide, which will help to combat the box blight. And you mix it, each tablet, with 1 litre of water. And then get in with a sprayer, and you really have to get in on all of the tissues. Absolutely soak all of the branches, all of the stems that are left, and around the base of the plant. So the final step, at least at this stage, is to take some good bark mulch, well composted, and cram it in to the base of the plants, really into the crown. And the idea, of course, is that not only will that help to lock the moisture in around the root zone, but also it will serve the purpose of, come autumn, winter, preventing the spores from bouncing back up onto the plant. And then the only other thing that I would suggest you do is, once you start to see green shoots coming through, is to then every 10 to 14 days give the whole thing a good wash with seaweed. Again, that's a foliar-based fertilizer, and that will just help the plants to fill out. And the whole process, until you get the perfect box hedge back again, well, it could take 3 months. So hopefully, come autumn, this will be lush and green. Time will tell.
Back in May 2016, I went to visit the garden of Mike and Sue Thornley on the west coast in Helensburgh. It's the perfect setting to grow wonderful rhododendrons, but they also had an eye-catching collection of tulips.
This is rhododendron lindleyi, and it has, I think as you probably recognise, absolutely fabulous scent.
It's absolutely stunning, Mike. It's a shame that people can't smell that from the telly.
It is, but they can see it. And apart from the scent, it has this amazing corona of flowers.
Now, not particularly hardy, though.
Oh, no. Well, hardy in this garden because of the influence of the sea, which protects us from the frost and so on. I think you'd have a bit of difficulty growing across on the east side of the country.
Yeah, the conservatory, I think. Now, you've so many rhododendrons here, but any others that you would pick out in this area?
Well, yes, I would, and it's another George Sheriff plant. It's Rhododendron vicidifolium. When he saw it, he thought this must be something new. And when it eventually flowered in the garden and the parts were sent to the Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh for identification, it was proved to be a new species. So the one we have here is the first into introduction. This is Rhododendron johnsonianum, another of these very tender rhododendrons that we can grow outside.
And beautiful bark on that one.
But no scent. But Rigidum next door has great scent.
And we've kind of caught that one at a peak condition, I would say.
We've been growing tulips in the vegetable patch for years. You can see the variety you can get in tulips. I mean, there are double ones, there are frilly ones, there are parrots, there are lilies.
And it's the variety of colour as well.
Well, they're terrific, aren't they? I mean, I try and organise them into groups that I think will look good and take notes on what has worked for another year. But when they go over, I take the heads off.
Yes, a deadheading.
Yeah, deadhead them. And then I individually dig them up and put them into boxes, all of one type, put them into the greenhouse and let them dry off. Wow, look at this colour.
That's quite a colour combination, isn't it? The pink and the red.
It is. But look over there now, that's rather more subtle. That's Mechanopsis.
She's a gem.
That's mobcap, yes, she's lovely. Look at this one. It's quite unusual, isn't it?
Now, I'm going to take a stab at this. Podophyllum?
Yes.
I don't know the species, though.
This is Auranticorli. It's beautiful. Look at those little white flowers nestling under there.
The flowers are gorgeous, but I also think the foliage is like umbrellas.
It is, and it comes from a very wet part of the world, so it forms a big umbrella towards the end of the season.
So this is really, you're kind of reinventing the rock garden?
Well, we're trying to. We're working, obviously, from the original structure. The Gibsons, the previous owners, worked in the quarry here and developed this as a rock garden, and it is quite an amazing little space. You can see where the stone was taken for building the house originally, and all the little pockets that are left.
And look at the way the acer just sits in there snugly.
I know. Well, it sort of has a wide range of habitats, lots of little ledges. Some of them are wet, some of them are dry.
Now, we could stay here for hours, Sue, but I think we should maybe find Mike.
Let's do that. There he is.
Bit of pruning, I think, is going
Yes.
on. And finishing off with this magnificent magnolia.
Yeah, this is Magnolia Star Wars. It's only been planted for about 12 years, and that's one of its advantages. It doesn't get too big, but it comes into flower very quickly, maybe after 2 or 3 years planting.
Does it last long as well?
Yeah, that's another advantage. It's
Succession of buds. And,
probably 6 to 8 weeks sometimes, if you're lucky.
And the shape of it, I mean, it looks a bit like a star.
Yes, it is, and it's called that because the petals, or tepals as we should really call them, fly off in different directions. Pretty extraterrestrial, really.
And good maybe for a small garden.
Spectacular for a small garden. It's always like this, Carol.
Thank you.
So again, we all got together via video call to answer some of your gardening questions.
Well, thank you everybody for sending in your gardening videos. We have had a fantastic response and we're so pleased that you're happy to send them in.
Hi Beechgrove Garden, Gordon Kidd here from Hamilton. Really enjoying the new show with the questions and answers in the lockdown. I've got 2 if I could please. This beautiful spirea has been flowering lovely this year, but the flowers are starting to go, as you can see. I'd like to know how far should I prune this now that the flowers are starting to go. And secondly, Pyrrhus behind me here has been really good. Should I do anything to that now as well? Thanks a lot.
I'm going to avoid you, George, this time. What about Chris? What do you think with the pruning?
Okay, so the spirea, I mean, that looks like a Spira arguta to me, and classic, isn't it? One of those plants which has a wonderful, almost sort of arching habit to it, and it looks so delicate, and yet it's so vigorous and such a stalwart in the garden. You know, you virtually can, it's impossible to kill it. The older stems are the ones that carry the flowers, and they're the ones that really have the real arch on it. And the thing to do is to prune out those after they've finished flowering. And really the golden rule with pruning any flowering shrub, especially an early spring flowering shrub, is prune after flowering. It allows the current season's growth to mature through the summer months, and then you'll be sure of getting flower on it the following spring. So dead easy to prune. Go in, prune out about 1/3 to 1/5 of the older wood, and you'll be guaranteed that it'll be in an absolute glorious display next year as well.
I think so. The Pearies doesn't look too mature, so I wouldn't actually prune it. But yet again, the Pearies has the same as the Spirea, that straight after flowering you would cut it down. But I wouldn't go too harsh on it personally. But George might differ.
I mean, the thing is, if people want a low maintenance garden, I would say these two shrubs are ideal, because as a general rule, neither of them necessarily need pruning. But if they are getting a bit out of hand, then yes, you can do a bit of pruning.
Hi there, Laura here from sunny Glasgow. Here are my nice, healthy cucumber seedlings, but for some reason, all of my tomato seedlings are dying, and I'm not sure why. Please, could you help me?
It looks a bit like dampening off disease, I would say, which can be caused by a fungi in the soil. So it could be overwatering. What do you think, George?
Well, there's always a problem when we start gardening that we're kind of anxious to move things on, to prick out quite early on. And perhaps with the tomatoes, what's happened is that they've been pricked out just too early. She may have inadvertently touched the stems of them, and it's very easy to break the little hairs that are on the stems and cause damage, into which then you get some fungi. So that's where we can often have the problem.
I was interested in the quality of the compost, actually, because it looked quite rough to me. It was quite fibrous, could be just a little bit too claggy, as you say, allowing them to get too wet around the collar of the young plant. And as Kirsty said, I think, it looks a little bit like there could be some damping off going on as a consequence, perhaps, of too early being potted on, and then also rather claggy compost.
I also think that Laura maybe has pricked them out too early, because all you could see was the cotyledon, whereas you couldn't actually see the first two true leaves, and that's the time for pricking off, as well as the damping off. But at least she's got the cucumbers, which is good news.
Hi, my name's Claire. I was given this magnolia tree last year as a gift. We're just wondering when it could be planted and in what conditions. Any advice would be much appreciated. Thank you.
That's a rather nice magnolia, isn't it? Probably desperate to get in the ground. So, George, would you put it in straight away?
Yeah, I would have it planted right away. Now, this is where the controversy starts, because I would dig a round hole, but I know that Chris would dig a square hole. So we could have this huge debate about it. But the thing that's important about this is, well, the situation where I would plant the magnolia would be in slightly wooded conditions, if you can, or just slightly in the shade, because they are woodland plants, and they do like to have a little bit of company. So taking out a hole which is possibly twice the size of the pot that's there, to the same depth as the pot, and making sure that when you plant it, you put in lots of organic matter, and you break down the edge of the hole when you're replanting it. And that way, the roots can get out into the surrounding soil. And then I would mulch it, and I would give it a jolly good water, and then keep an eye on it, and watch to make sure that the young growth that the magnolia is producing is always getting longer. Because if it always gets longer, it means that it's got a good supply of water. But if it gets long and then it starts to get shorter and shorter, it's short of water. It's the roots that are the problem, not the top. So make sure that you keep it well watered.
And just to go back to the round hole, square hole debate, there's about, 6 encyclopedias, isn't there, George, on whether you should dig a round hole, a square hole, whether you should mound plant, whether, all sorts of different, more philosophers than there are gardeners, I think.
Right. I think so.
Do whatever you feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, as you can see, we all go on with our answers, don't we? And that's probably why we only answer a few questions. But please do send in your questions, and also just tell us how you're getting on in your garden. And the easiest way to find out how to do that is on our website.
As the vigorous shoots of spring really start to come to fruition on our trees and shrubs, it's worth checking around the plant to see if there's any signs of reversion. And that's exactly what we've got here on this contorted hazel. Should be nice and twisted, but there's a telltale sign. Straight stems coming from the roots. So the trick is to go as low as you can in the compost and cut them out.
I just thought I would update you on my hydroponic growing system. So far I've got purple basil, some lettuce, chives, and some nice baby chilies coming along. So it's really doing well, particularly well with these lights. So my handy hint this week is using an old yogurt pot to make plant labels. So what I'm going to do is cut to whatever size of label you want on the old yogurt pot. Take your permanent marker. I'm going to write chives, like that. Then all you're going to do is put that in your pots, and there you go, you've got your own homemade plant labels.
Hold on to the arms of your chair. I'm going to show you something really, really special. Look at that. Does that not make you envious? This is Meconopsis mophead, one of my earliest flowering Meconopsis. And if I didn't show you it today, these petals would have fallen off and its bounteous beauty would have gone. What a wonderful blue.
Do you want to see what I've got? I've got this.
Ooh, what have you got under your desk?
This is a
That's
seed
cruelty. That's cruelty.
from a man whose fetish is pruning. That's yeah. So this is a seedling, Juniperus chinensis, which I've been bonsaiing on my office window. And I'm no expert in bonsai, but that looks not too bad, is it? Really?
That looks good. I mean, it's just a question of acting like a rabbit or a deer and just nipping out the bits that you don't like, isn't it?
And it's a really good stress buster, because all you need to do, if you're having a really difficult morning in the office, is just get your little bonsai scissors out and just prune away at it with a little cloud prune. The more severely pruned it is, the more stressed I am, or have been.
Well, I think that's it again. So look forward to seeing you all again, hopefully next week. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe.